Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are staring right into what you could call the abyss of the legal system.
That's a good way to put it.
We're looking at a scenario that is, and I don't think I'm exaggerating here, it's the ultimate nightmare for anyone who believes in justice.
Well, it's a fundamental nightmare. It takes the entire concept of a trial by your peers and just turns it on its head. It becomes a predatory hunting ground.
Okay, let's unpack that, because usually when you hear legal nightmare, you're thinking, what? Wrongful conviction, maybe a corrupt judge?
Right, a bad cop on the stand, something you can fight.
Exactly, something within the system that's broken. But this is something else entirely. I want you to just imagine this for a second. You're innocent. You are on trial for a brutal double murder. The evidence is piling up against you.
It's bad, really bad.
You're looking at the jury, right? That's your only hope. You're praying that at least one of them, just one, can see the truth. But what you don't know, what you can't possibly know, is that the real killer isn't sitting next to you in the defendant's chair.
No, the real killer is watching you from the jury box.
That just gives me chills. It's such a complete violation of what should be the safest space in the entire legal process.
It's the fox, not just in the henhouse, but judging the farmer.
And that's what we're unpacking today. The source material is the thriller 13 by Steve Cavanagh. Now, I know this is fiction, but the way Cavanagh lays it all out, it feels terrifyingly plausible.
Oh, absolutely. This isn't just a simple crime novel. He's written something that feels like, I don't know, a manual on how to dismantle the justice system from the inside out.
It really is this meticulous dissection. We're dealing with a killer who doesn't just kill for the thrill of it, but kills with a purpose. He kills to insert himself into the legal process.
He doesn't just want to get away with murder. He wants to be the one who decides the verdict on his own crime.
Talk about a god complex.
It's the ultimate power trip. And to really get our heads around how someone could even attempt this, we have to understand the man himself. So for this deep dive, we're going to be exploring the psychology of a person who is incapable of physical pain.
Right. And not just tough, but medically incapable.
Medically, yes. We're also digging into the forensic puzzle of a locked room double homicide that involves a massive Hollywood star. And then there's the guy trying to stop it all, a brilliant con man turned lawyer.
So it's this cat and mouse game set against a really specific backdrop. We're in New York City.
But it's not the New York you see on postcards. The book paints this picture of a cold, raw December in Manhattan. It's freezing, it's dark, and the shadows are very, very long. It's the perfect atmosphere for this kind of story.
It really sets the mood. You get this duality right from the first few pages. On one side, you have the glitz and the glamour of this huge murder trial. Robert Bobby Solomon, this massive movie star. It's all flashing cameras, high-priced lawyers. It feels like a modern-day O.J. trial.
Exactly. It is the pure theater of law. But then on the other side, you have the world where our killer operates, and that's the grimy, invisible underbelly of the city. We're talking homeless disguises, abandoned lots, the cold pavement right outside the criminal courts.
It's a collision of two worlds, the world of the cameras and the world of the shadows.
And the killer moves between them like a ghost.
Okay, so let's jump right into the deep end. Let's start with the character who's driving this whole nightmare, the antagonist, Joshua Cain.
Cain is. He's one of the most fascinating and terrifying villains I've read in a long time. The source material introduces us to him with a single medical fact that defines his entire existence.
The pain thing.
He suffers from a rare genetic condition called congenital analgesia.
CPP, right. I've heard of this.
Often referred to as CP, yes. Congenital insensitivity to pain with anhidrosis, which means he cannot feel physical pain at all.
Okay, I have to pause you there. Because on the surface, no pain. And it sounds kind of incredible, right? No backaches, no stubbed toes, no headaches. It sounds like a comic book superpower.
It sounds great, doesn't it? But Cavanagh shows us why it's a complete physiological nightmare. He doesn't just tell us Cain has this condition. He forces us to watch a child grow up without the world's most important teacher.
And that teacher is pain.
Pain is data. Pain is your body screaming at you, hey, stop doing that. You're damaging the machinery. Without that data, you are flying completely blind. There's this scene in the book. It's really vivid. Cain is 8 years old. He's climbing an apple tree.
A classic childhood moment. Every kid climbs a tree.
Exactly. He's reaching for that perfect apple at the very top of the prize, and the branch snaps. Now, for you or me, the fall is terrifying. You brace for impact. You know it's going to hurt.
But for Cain,
there's just The sensation of movement and then stopping, he hits the ground hard.
And silence.
Absolute silence. And that's what makes it a horror scene. A normal 8-year-old is screaming bloody murder, neighbors are running out of their houses, but Kane just stands up, dusts himself off, and the book says he actually tries to climb the tree again.
Wait, but he has to be injured, right? From a fall like that.
He's destroyed, his wrist is shattered, the text describes it, his hand is just dangling, it's swollen up like a balloon, but his brain isn't getting any of the "this is broken" signals. He just walks into his kitchen, holds up this mangled limb to his mother, and asks why his hand looks funny.
Oh my God. Imagine being the mother in that moment. That's not just seeing your kid with a broken bone. That's looking at your child and realizing something is fundamentally, terrifyingly wrong with their wiring.
And that is the absolute crux of Joshua Kane. At the hospital, the doctors are panicking. They think it's a brain tumor, something cutting off the nerves. They start sticking him with needles, prodding him to get a reaction.
And he's just nothing.
His mother is weeping in the corner, absolutely terrified. And Kane is just watching the needle slide into his own skin with this dumb fascination. Like he's watching a movie.
He's an observer of his own body. It's like he's driving a car, but all the dashboard lights, the warning signals are broken.
That's a perfect analogy, and this is the deep psychological insight the book gives us. Because he never felt pain, he never learned fear. And because he never learned fear, he never developed empathy.
So when he sees someone else crying or screaming in pain, he doesn't feel bad for them.
He doesn't even comprehend it on an emotional level. He views it as a biological reaction he can't replicate. It's a foreign language. In fact, the source material suggests it goes even darker than that. He views pain and emotion in other people not as something to empathize with, but as a drug.
A drug? How do you mean?
He gets a vicarious rush from watching others suffer or die because it's the only time he feels something close to a peak experience. It's a powerful sensation he can't access himself, so he becomes a voyeur of suffering.
That is deeply, deeply disturbing. It turns him into this alien presence walking among humans.
And that detachment is what makes him the ultimate chameleon. Because he doesn't have a rigid, pain-defined sense of self, he can become anyone. He is an absolute master of disguise and mimicry. He doesn't just put on a wig and glasses.
No, it's far more involved.
He studies his victims for weeks. He learns their routines, their posture, their voice, their mannerisms. He absorbs them.
There's that scene that really shows the lengths he goes to. He breaks into a victim's apartment, a man whose identity he plans to steal for the jury pool. But he doesn't just kill him. Not right away.
No, because he needs the data first. He needs the voice. He needs the cadence.
So he's not just a brute killer, he's an actor. A method actor.
A weaponized method actor. He has his target tied to a chair. The man is terrified, obviously. And Kane doesn't ask for money. He pulls out a piece of paper.
Not a ransom note.
It's a script. And on the script is a pangram.
Like the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
Exactly that principle. A sentence that uses every letter of the alphabet. But Kane's version is so much weirder. It's the hungry purple dinosaur ate the kine, zingy fox, the jabbering crab, and the mad whale.
Okay, that is just terrifyingly surreal. Imagine waking up tied to a chair and some guy is making you read about a hungry purple dinosaur. Why that sentence? What's the point?
It's designed to capture the full phonetic range of the English language. He forces the victim to read it over and over while he records him. He needs the plosives, the sibilants, the fricatives. He wants to capture the sound of this specific man's voice when he's calm and when he's terrified.
He's building a vocal mask.
He's stealing the man's frequency. He listens to the recording for hours, isolates the little tremors of fear in the victim's voice, and then he practices stripping them out until he can sound exactly like the victim, but confident and relaxed. It's all mechanical to him. The victim isn't a person. He's a set of audio data to be downloaded.
That is so cold. That's like he's a human AI.
And that's Kane. He is a biological machine. He even views his own body as a suit that he can alter for a role. There's this moment where he's studying the victim's driver's license, and he realizes his nose doesn't quite match. The victim has a crooked nose from an old break.
Oh, I remember this part. It made me physically cringe, even knowing he can't feel it.
He goes into the bathroom, he wets a towel and wraps it around his head.
Why the towel?
To prevent a concussion. He's pragmatic. He doesn't want brain damage. He just wants cosmetic damage. He wraps his head, stands behind a door, and slams the edge of the door into his own face.
And because of the analgesia?
He describes the sound of the bone shattering as being like breakfast cereal, just a crunch, no pain, just structural adjustment. He looks in the mirror, sees the nose is broken and bleeding, and thinks, Good, now I look like him.
That's horrifying.
Yeah.
But let's get into his actual methodology here. He isn't just killing random people for their identities. He has a very specific, audacious goal.
Yes, his killing has a purpose. He wants to be on the jury for the Robert Solomon murder trial.
He wants to be the architect of the verdict, and to do that, he has to hack the entire jury selection process, starting with the mail.
The source material opens with this incredibly tense scene. He's waiting outside the courthouse for a mailman named Elton.
And this scene really establishes his whole philosophy on fate versus control. He's been watching Elton for 6 weeks. He knows his routine, his shoe size, what he eats for lunch. But in the moment, he decides Elton's fate with a coin toss.
Right. He introduces this element of chance into his otherwise rigid planning. Heads, Elton dies. Tails, he lives. But it's just a game to amuse himself. The real prize is the mailbag. He needs the jury summonses.
So he stages this elaborate accident. He tricks Elton into slamming the heavy sliding door of the mailman right onto his own arm. And again, he uses his condition. A normal person would be on the ground screaming, going into shock. Kane just pretends to scream so he can get into the back of the van.
And once he's in the back, while this poor, guilt-ridden mailman is driving him to a medical center, Kane is meticulously slicing open the mailbags. He's filtering for just the summonses, the ones with the red bands that say important court summons.
He's not stealing them.
No, that would raise an alarm. He photographs them with a tiny camera, reseals the bags with a special glue, and puts them back. He's stealing the identities of prospective jurors before they even know they've been called for duty.
It's a massive security breach that relies entirely on his willingness to let his arm be crushed in a van door.
High risk, high reward. He gets a list of targets, people who have a similar build or people he thinks he can mimic, and then he goes to work eliminating them and taking their place in the system.
So that is the monster in the dark. Now, let's flip the coin. Let's look at the man who has to stop him, even though he doesn't know a monster like Kane even exists yet. Eddie Flynn.
Eddie is such a great protagonist because he's the total polar opposite of Kane. Kane is numb. Eddie feels everything, maybe too much. He's a former con artist who became a lawyer.
I love that background. It means he knows the hustle. It's not just about law books and precedents for him. It's about reading people, finding the angle.
He does, but he's also a deeply damaged man. The source material is clear about that. He's a recovering alcoholic, and he's separated from his wife, Christine, and his daughter, Amy. He carries this heavy, heavy weight of guilt from past cases where things went horribly wrong.
He's trying to live this boring legal life now, taking small cases, trying to win his family back. But his skill set is just too unique to stay quiet for long. There's this brilliant opening scene in a minor courtroom that perfectly illustrates who Eddie is. He's defending a prostitute named Jean Marie.
Right. It's a small-time drug possession charge. A cop, Detective Granger, testifies that he saw a straw, drug paraphernalia sticking out of her McDonald's bag. He says that gave him probable cause to search her.
And Eddie's conman radar goes off immediately. He knows the cop is lying. He knows it's a drop, a plant. So what does he do? He doesn't just argue the law. He pulls a straw trick.
It's a classic con man move, but applied in a courtroom. It's genius. He brings his own evidence, a McDonald's bag and a straw. He calls the cop back to the stand for demonstration.
Walk us through this because it's so simple and so effective. The cop's whole case rests on him seeing that straw sticking out of the top of the bag.
Eddie hands the bag to the judge. He takes a standard issue McDonald's straw, and in front of the whole court, he just drops it into the bag. Now, you have to think about the geometry here. A regular McDonald's bag, when you hold it by the handles, stands about 10 or 11 inches tall. A straw is maybe 8 inches long.
So if you just drop the straw in?
It vanishes, it falls straight to the bottom. Even if it manages to stand up perfectly straight, which it won't, the top of the straw is still inches below the rim of the bag. You literally cannot see it from the outside unless you're a bird flying directly overhead.
The straw trick. He uses basic physics to prove the cop is lying.
It shows us two crucial things about Eddie right away. One, he sees angles that other lawyers completely miss. He understands the physical reality of objects in deception. And two, he has a deep, visceral distaste for corrupt police work. He hates a frame-up. He completely humiliates the cop, gets the case dismissed, and walks out.
Which, of course, makes him the perfect, or maybe the only, lawyer capable of untangling the main event, the Solomon murders.
This is the trial of the century, inside the world of the book. The defendant is Robert Bobby Solomon. He's young, handsome. The book compares him to a young DiCaprio. He's one half of a Hollywood power couple, married to his co-star Ariella Bloom.
Until Ariella and their head of security, a guy named Carl Tozer, are found dead in the master bedroom of the Solomons' multi-million-dollar apartment.
And the crime scene is baffling. It's presented as a classic locked room mystery. The house is pristine. We're talking white carpets, minimalist modern decor. There's no sign of forced entry. And crucially, no bloody footprints leading out of the bedroom.
But inside that one room, it's a slaughterhouse.
It is. But the forensics are telling a very confusing story. Ariella was stabbed multiple times, but the medical examiner finds she has 0 defensive wounds. Her arms were just by her sides.
Which implies what? That she knew the killer, or was taken completely by surprise.
Exactly. It doesn't look like a struggle. And then there's Carl, the head of security. He was a big, tough guy, ex-military, but he was bludgeoned to death.
With Bobby's baseball bat.
With Bobby's personalized baseball bat, which has Bobby's fingerprints all over it. Of course it does. It's his bat. But here's the other strange thing. Carl also has no defensive wounds. He's found kind of curled up, almost peaceful, except for the massive trauma to his head.
So the police theory is simple. Bobby snapped. A crime of passion, a jealous rage. He kills them both. But Bobby's story is that he came home and found them that way. He's innocent.
And that brings us to the single most bizarre piece of evidence at the scene, the dollar bill butterfly.
This is such a weirdly creative detail. Inside the mouth of the security guard, Carl Tozer, the police find a $1 bill. But it's not just crumpled up in there. It's been folded into an incredibly intricate, beautiful origami butterfly.
It's ritualistic. It's clearly a message. But for the prosecution, it's a slam dunk. Because when they test it for DNA...
They find Bobby's DNA on it.
Yeah.
Case closed, right?
Yeah, not quite. And this is the detail that hooks Eddie Flynn into the case. Because the bill also has the DNA of another man on it. A man named Richard Pina.
And who is Richard Pina?
Richard Pina was a notorious serial killer. But here's the anomaly. He was executed by the state of New York back in 2001.
Okay, that's weird. But the dollar bill.
The series number printed on the bill proves it was manufactured in 2013, 12 full years after Richard Pina died.
So you have a dead serial killer's DNA on a piece of currency that didn't exist when he was alive? That sounds like a ghost story.
It does. And Eddie's theory, and the theory of the high-priced lead defense attorney, Rudy Karp, is that the NYPD planted the evidence to frame Bobby. They think a detective grabbed an old evidence swab from the Pina case file to get some killer DNA on the bill, but they messed up. They used a contaminated sample without realizing it.
They think it's just a sloppy frame-up. Dirty cops being lazy.
Yeah.
But as we, the readers, know with Joshua Cain involved, nothing is ever sloppy.
Exactly. So this leads us to the investigation phase. Rudy Karp hires Eddie specifically for his skills in cross-examining cops. But Eddie demands more. He doesn't just want to argue in court, he wants to investigate the truth. He brings in his own team.
Right. Harper and Holton?
Harper, an ex-FBI agent, and Holton, an ex-cop turned private security. They decide to follow the one thread that makes no sense.
Yeah.
The dollar bill.
So they go to the FBI. They get a meeting with a forensic analyst named Paige Delaney. And this one meeting just blows the case wide open.
It completely shifts the genre. This is no longer just a legal drama about a frame-up. It's now a serial killer hunt because Delaney reveals that the origami butterfly isn't just a random weird act. It's a signature.
The FBI has seen it before.
Many times, they have a file on a ghost, a killer they call Dollar Bill.
A ghost serial killer. Why a ghost?
Because he leaves no trace, no witnesses, no forensics, nothing, just a body in one of these intricately folded butterflies. And then Delaney points out something absolutely crucial that the NYPD forensics team completely missed. It's not just the fold of the bill, it's the ink.
Wait, like he writes a message on it?
No, it's 1,000 times more subtle than that. On the back of every $1 bill, you have the Great Seal of the United States, the eagle, the pyramid. Delaney puts the butterfly from the crime scene under a high-powered digital microscope.
And what do they see?
On the olive branch, clutched in the eagle's talon, and on the arrows in the other talon, and on the stars above its head. There are tiny, almost microscopic ink marks. These aren't accidental smudges from a printing press. They are deliberate, hand-drawn markings. It's a code.
So the implication here is massive. Bobby Solomon isn't a murderer who got sloppy. He's the latest victim in a long line of victims, framed by a highly sophisticated, elusive serial killer who's actively taunting the authorities with microscopic puzzles.
But here's the legal nightmare for Eddie. Dollar Bill is an active, highly classified FBI investigation. The Bureau cannot and will not testify about their hunt for a ghost in a state murder trial.
So Eddie knows the truth.
He knows the truth, but he has no way to prove it to a jury. He's completely stuck.
Meanwhile, as Eddie is chasing these forensic ghosts and trying to find a way to use this bombshell evidence, the real threat is quietly moving into position. Let's talk about the jury tampering, because this isn't just bribery or intimidation. This is infiltration.
It is surgical. So, the defense team, led by Rudy Karp, employs a jury consultant named Arnold Novoselic. Now, jury consultants are a real thing in high-profile cases. They use demographics, psychology, social media deep dives, and sometimes intrusive background checks to rate every potential juror.
They're trying to game the system using data to stack the deck in their favor.
Exactly. They want to find the perfect mix of jurors who will be sympathetic to Bobby and skeptical of the cops. But Kane is hacking their data, he's figured out their system, he knows exactly the kind of juror they are looking for.
And he targets a man named Wally Cook.
Wally Cook is, on paper, the perfect juror for the defense. He's a liberal, he's a private investigator himself, he knows the streets, he's the kind of guy who is predisposed to believe the police would frame someone. Kane knows the defense will fight to get Wally on that jury.
So Kane decides to become Wally.
Well, he can't literally become him. Wally has a life, a history. So he decides to remove Wally from the board so that he can take another juror's spot.
The attack on Wally Cook is just brutal. Kane sabotages Wally's van tire to lure him out of his house late at night.
It's a classic ambush. Wally comes out to check the flat tire, and Kane approaches from the darkness. But this is a great detail. Wally isn't helpless. He's a PI. He's been in scraps before. He fights back.
And this is the moment where Kane's condition becomes a superpower again.
Yeah.
Wally pulls a switchblade.
He doesn't just slash him. He stabs Kane. Deep. Right in the thigh.
Ouch.
For any normal person, a wound like that, that's a fight ender. That's hitting major muscle, maybe even the femoral artery. A normal man drops, screams, goes into shock.
But not Kane.
Kane looks down at the knife sticking out of his own leg. And he's not screaming. He's not in agony. He's annoyed.
Annoyed you're...
He's annoyed because the blood is going to ruin his pants and make a mess. He calmly disarms Wally, knocks him out, kills him, and then he has to deal with the cleanup. He takes Wally's body to an abandoned lot and burns it to destroy the evidence, but then he has to deal with his own leg.
The self-surgery scene, I have to say, this is one of the hardest parts of the book to read. It's so visceral.
He drives back to his safe house. He can't go to a hospital. That creates a paper trail. Questions. So he has to fix it himself. He pulls out the car's cigarette lighter, pushes it in, and waits until the coils are glowing cherry red.
Oh, God. I know it's coming.
And he plunges the glowing hot coils directly into the open stab wound to cauterize the bleeding artery.
That makes me nauseous just thinking about it. The sound, the smell.
And he's just a mechanic. He's fixing a radiator. He stitches the wound, shut himself with a needle and thread, applies makeup to his face to hide the pallor, because losing that much blood makes you pale, and gets himself ready for court the next morning.
It's absolutely inhuman. So Kane goes to court using a different stolen identity he had prepared as a backup. He sits through the voir dire, the selection process.
And he plays the role of the perfect juror flawlessly. He answers the lawyer's questions in a way that makes him seem neutral but intelligent. He presents himself as a thinker. He knows that lawyers on both sides love a thinker because they each believe they're the ones who can persuade him.
But then there's a twist, a moment of pure chance. After all his murder, all his meticulous planning, the math doesn't quite work out for him.
It's a numbers game. In jury selection, both sides get a certain number of strikes. They can remove jurors they don't like for any reason. Kane survives all the cuts, but the final random lottery of who sits in which chair, it doesn't go his way.
He doesn't get into the main 12.
No. A woman named Brenda Kowalski takes the very last seat, juror #12. Kane is seated right behind her as alternate juror #13.
Which means he sits and watches the whole trial, but he doesn't get to go into the deliberation room. He doesn't get to vote. He doesn't get to force the verdict.
Unless a juror drops out during the trial. Due to illness or a family emergency or something else.
And we know exactly how Kane makes people drop out.
The book gives us this incredibly chilling inner monologue from Kane as they're all leaving the courtroom for the day. Brenda is so excited to be on the jury. She's a good citizen, doing her duty. She's chatting away to Kane about it. And Kane is just looking at her and thinking to himself, you won't be here tomorrow if I see you first.
He's going to kill her just to move up one seat from 13 to 12.
That is his level of commitment. People are not people. They are just obstacles. They are chess pieces to be removed from the board.
You know, when you pull back and look at the whole story so far, there are some really heavy themes running through it. The most obvious one is this contrast between pain and numbness.
Oh, It's the central axis of the entire book.
Yeah.
You have Eddie Flynn, who is absolutely defined by his pain, his emotional pain, the guilt over past cases, the separation from his family. We learn he drinks specifically to numb that pain. He feels too much, and he's trying to escape it.
And then you have Kane, who is naturally physically numb, but he's desperate to feel something, anything.
He chases the rush of killing because it's the closest thing he can get to feeling alive. It's this perverse inversion. The hero is trying to escape feeling. The villain is chasing any sensation he can find, even if it's the secondhand sensation of another person's terror.
And that leads right into the theme of performance.
Everyone is acting. I mean, it's so layered. Bobby Solomon, the defendant, is a professional actor. We don't know if his grief on the stand is real or just the performance of a lifetime.
Joshua Kane is a serial killer who is literally acting the part of a juror.
And Eddie Flynn is this former con man acting the part of a respectable lawyer. He even admits it. He calls his courtroom tricks the hustle. The source material seems to be suggesting that the courtroom isn't really about objective truth at all. It's about who puts on the most convincing show for the audience, and the audience is the jury.
Which brings us to that final, really unsettling theme, the system itself.
The book is deeply critical of the American justice system. It highlights just how fragile the whole enterprise is. You have corrupt cops who are willing to plant evidence to close a case. You have jury consultants who use data mining to manipulate the selection process. And then you have a killer who realizes that the jury, the very heart of the system, is its weakest link.
It's terrifying because it exposes that the entire system relies on an honor code. It relies on people being basically honest. And if you introduce one truly bad actor, literally and figuratively in this case, the whole thing can just collapse.
It really asks us to question the sanctity of the jury. We have this idea, this ideal of 12 random, impartial people who will fairly weigh the evidence. But what if they aren't random? What if one of them isn't impartial? What if one of them is on a mission?
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the first half of 13, the stakes just could not be higher. The trial is about to begin. Eddie Flynn has found this incredible link to a serial killer, the FBI's dollar bill file, but he has no way to prove it in court.
He's fighting with one hand tied behind his back, and he has absolutely no idea that the monster he is hunting is sitting right behind him in the gallery. Alternate number 13. Sharpening his claws, waiting for his moment to murder his way into the deliberation room.
It really leaves us with a provocative thought, doesn't it? When you walk into a courtroom, or even when you just watch a trial on the news, all eyes are on the defendant. We stare at them. We look for signs of guilt, a flicker of a lie. We ask, did they do it?
But the source material forces us to turn around, to look at the jury. Who are these people, really? What secrets are they hiding? In a system that is designed to judge facts, what happens when the final arbiter of those facts is the secret architect of the entire crime?
It certainly makes you want to take a much closer look at your next jury summons.
It does. It makes you realize that you never, ever really know who is sitting next to you.
That's it for this deep dive. Check your mail carefully, watch out for paper butterflies, and we'll see you next time.